welcome back to another episode of the Money Making Mamas podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Nancy Wallace-Lobbs, here with my beautiful daughter,
Kelcie Leica.
And today we're going to be putting Miss Kelcie in the hot seat, so you'll know more about her, what makes her tick. But before we get going there, Kelcie, we a couple weeks ago we talked about New Year's, the holidays. So, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
I don't know if I feel like New Year's resolutions is a heavy word. But it is like a good reminder to, hey, is there anywhere I could like check in my life? But I will say, okay, so I guess you could count this as a resolution. We are doing a 2025 challenge because we're really just trying to like save money and, be smarter financially wise and, not just spend $60 on lunch on a Monday. So Zach and I were doing a kind of a family household challenge, and month by month we're doing different savings things. So like January is no eating out unless it's like a special celebration, like we have
or
friends.
Somebody else is paying for it, right?
Exactly. Or like I think February is buying no new clothes except ones that like you need to, like if I get a hole in a pair of leggings, then like replace those. And there's some other fun ones. I think
How did you come up with that? I mean, was
Instagram, social media. Yeah. I just thought it would be fun. And then obviously just trying to be healthier. And, I've been going to cycle at 5:15 in the morning, only Tuesdays and Fridays. And then I weight lift, but I've been trying to be more consistent about it. So I'm feeling a little tired today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a lot. It makes me tired thinking of getting up at 5:15 a.m. to go cycle. So, but that kind of goes on with the money making mamas, because sometimes you have to make sacrifices to save money, to buy the things, to invest.
Yes.
Because part of savings is savings to invest.
Well, yeah. And so we're not doing this challenge because we're like, oh my gosh, we need the money. It's more so we can do more projects here. Because, we want to invest more this upcoming year because we've done just like, the 2 deals this past year, but like Zach and I really want to get our feet into investing. But then another thing too is we are wanting to also invest in our house, and we want to turn like our front room into a little office / guest room, and we have our patio that we still haven't finished. So it's not necessarily saving because we're needing the money. It's more so saving because we have goals that we want to meet when it comes. And yeah, so that's why we're doing it. So I'm actually kind of excited because we've never done a challenge like this. So we'll see.
That'd be good. And then when you get to that point about, because that kind of goes into, I always, come back to real estate, because when you make changes to your house, you always have to think of resale value.
Yes.
Right?
So we'll talk about it.
We're going to have an episode about, doing things to your house and smart ways to do things to your house where you get your money back, return on investment, or what were you thinking?
Right. I love it. Yeah.
So, are you ready to start sharing?
I'm ready. It's funny because I was thinking about, last week's episode, and I just feel like I've always felt, maybe I haven't told you enough, that I feel that you have so much wisdom, and you've lived a life and whatnot. You still have a lot of life to live. So it'll be, I don't know if I'll have that many wise words for everybody out there, but maybe more funny stories than anything.
Well, and also a journey, right? And I think every entrepreneur starts with a journey, because we're not born to be entrepreneurs.
Right.
It's actually something that you have to kind of cultivate. And I think the true entrepreneurs are people who kind of think outside the box.
Yep.
And learn from both the things that they've done and also the skills that they learn. So,
right. Yep.
Okay, so I've got my list here, right? Okay, audience, are you ready? All right, so Kelcie, first tell the audience about your career journey and what is it like working for a Fortune 500 company. But you didn't start out there. So you should talk about and I'm going to kind of give this to you and I want to make sure you put this into your talk, because every job you've had, including when you were 15, remember where you worked at, and how they wanted you to be a manager, and I said, no, you're too young, but because of your strong work ethic. So I want you to make sure you incorporate that.
So I think my work ethic really comes back to, I remember that the iPod came out, and I don't even know what year, but it was a green one. It was like the brick that you could throw across the room, and it was indestructible. And I really, really wanted that. And I remember when I wanted it, and I think it was summertime as well, but you and Brian were both like, okay, well, how are you going to get it? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just like, okay, we'll buy it for you. So you guys came up with a list of chores for me to do daily, pretty much while you guys were at work, and I do that. And I think that was kind of one of the first times that I like worked for something. I mean, because $200 back then was kind of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the first things that I really worked for. Was I did the chores, I dusted blinds, I vacuumed baseboards. And it's funny because I also think that that's how I know how to keep a clean house now. So I think that's like one of the first times I can really remember like working for something. And then obviously like moving into high school, one of my first official jobs was Papa Murphy's Take and Bake Pizza. And I just remember you driving me around, like, because I wasn't even 16 yet, like, and so I don't even remember what prompted. Was it me being like, hey, I want a job, or was it
you wanted stuff?
Yeah.
And then because you were busy at school too, you were in clubs, you played sports, you were taking the dual credit classes and things like that. So it's not like you were
itching at but I mean, I also think I kind of enjoyed it though too, like just filling out the job applications, turning stuff in, and then you guys drove me there. I got my job at Papa Murphy's Take and Bake Pizza, and that was a lot of fun. That was just a little like, you guys would pick me up when it was all done, and I met some really cool people there. Still people that I follow on social media that they're doing great in their lives and whatnot. And then
I don't think they survived COVID. Did they?
Papa
Murphy's?
You were talking about the people. It's like, how would you know?
No, Papa Murphy's.
I don't know 100%. I feel like I see them every once in a while, but the store that I worked at, I don't know if they're still there. But yeah, as a company, I don't know. But now it's like some fajita Pete's.
Yes.
Something like that.
But they wanted to make you hadn't been there very long, and they wanted to make you like a supervisor.
Yeah.
And
so
what did I say?
Well, what did you say? Because I don't remember.
Okay, I said no, because at that time I didn't feel that, you didn't need the additional stress of managing people.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to pay you that much more, but it was the fact that, yes, great opportunity that they recognized you. But I think, being someone who'd been in the workplace and managing people, you didn't really need the stress. And also, in the restaurant world, if you're the supervisor and your people don't show up, you have to cover their shift.
Yeah.
So it was just too much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So worked for that, and then I remember wanting more, getting paid more, something different. I mean, I feel like every job that I've had, I've worked there for a hot minute. Like, I've worked there for a while. So I went to Texas Roadhouse, and that was a really fun job because that was my first like server or service industry. For food industry, service industry, job, and I worked all the way from a host, like greeter, like that goes and seats you, and then it was cool because then I got to work up to like board manager to control like where people sat, and then I did to-go orders, and then I went up to serving after that, and then I went and worked at another restaurant that was kind of family business. I really, really enjoyed that. And then I became a bartender, so it was really cool because I feel like besides management position, like I really got to, there's really only a handful of positions within the food industry, and I stand by it that I think everyone should work in the food industry or be a server or something at that, because it just is a different skill it gives you.
It does. I mean, customer service,
right?
I mean, you make more tips if you have good service.
But even then, like, just having yes, like the face, but then I did meet some really fun people, but then I also I remember, I guarantee these people will not listen to this podcast, don't even know, but like my first time serving a table was at Texas Roadhouse, where I was a waiter, and this couple came in. It was my very first table, and they ordered, so like Texas Roadhouse, you order steaks, right? For those, maybe that, I can't imagine that our listeners don't know what that is, but by the off chance, we have someone from like New York, I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, they came in and they ordered 2 like, I don't know, I think it was prime rib steaks, like big ones, like a good 20 ounce, medium rare. And the amount of teeth that they had between them both, I had more fingers.
Aww.
Well, I'm not trying to be mean, but it was just like, it was a lot of chewing and gumming and all this stuff. But they ate it all, and then they complained that it was, like, not to their liking. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do I even go about this? They were kind of being rude about it. Like, you guys ate the whole thing, so clearly you weren't okay with it. You know what I mean? And so I, like, just legit didn't know how to go through that. But at the end of the day, like, they always teach you customer is always right. And you are working for a tip as a server. And so I just kind of killed them with kindness. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. And went and got my manager. And luckily I had a really good manager and all that. But I just remember that being my first table of just, like, what are the chances that these people that, like...
Do you think they were kind of scamming it? I think maybe.
Maybe. Who knows? Anyway.
Now that I'm jaded, so.
So anyway, so cut to, so then after that, was a bartender, and that was a lot of fun. And then college, and then I graduated from college, and I went to Texas State, and then I went to UT Dallas. And at UT Dallas, I got my emerging media and communications degree, which is kind of a combination of social media and marketing. And I supposed to go to an insurance company, and that was probably the one job that I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I had to take a test for it and all this stuff. I failed the test, and then they were like, well, it's okay, you can still start, and you take the test in a couple of days. And I had no desire to study for the test. And, again, I've always felt like I need to put my best foot forward and things like that. And I've always tried to do, like, the right thing. And this is probably, like, one of the moments in my life where this was probably not the most right thing, but I called them, like, 2 days before I was supposed to start, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be in.
Yeah, I mean, we had that conversation, though.
Yeah.
And I said it was better to do it then than to, like, start and have them basically waste their time and money, training somebody that's not even going to be into the job. So.
Well, and also, luckily, I had worked so much, and I had saved so much.
Yes.
And so, like, I had it's not like I was... like, I needed the job tomorrow. Like, I had done a really good job working through college and miscellaneous things and whatnot.
And what's the one thing that we taught you about when you...
Always taught me to put half my check in savings, half my check in checking. So that's what I did.
This is kind of like a parenting moment. Because I remember when I shared on my podcast that we didn't talk about money. Sometimes we had it, sometimes we didn't. And I wanted to make sure that you understood the importance of money and how money can work for you. And so that's, we tried to instill that in you. So, okay.
Yeah. So, yes, because of that, luckily I was able to, not just go to the insurance people and be like, hey, sorry, I'm not coming in, but also to, like, really take it for me. And this is not what I want to do. And luckily it worked out. I found a really good, marketing company. And I worked for them for a little while. And again, my background of customer service really kicked in because it was, client services, and they were not easy clients to work with. But at the end of the day, you just got to kind of kill them with kindness. And then after that, I had met Zach, my now husband, and he was working a sales job at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And I would see his paycheck, and I was like, well, wait, I want that paycheck because sales always does really well. And luckily, they were hiring for an inside sales position, and even though I didn't have any background in IT, I didn't have background in sales, it kind of wasn't about that. It was just more of, hey, can you pick up, luckily the manager that I had at the time too, like, was willing to give me the chance. And even though I didn't have that background, and she was like, as long as you're willing to kind of put in the work to learn the material, like, the relationship selling comes next. And again, that goes all the way back to customer service and things like that.
Let's kind of give yourself a little kudos too, because the journey, because you didn't burn the previous employers, you had good references, you had a good work history, and so when you start building on that, like in any business, that helps to propel you into the next step of your journey.
No, I will say all of the managers I've always had have always been so supportive of my next step. Like, it's always so nerve-wracking going to an employer and being like, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore.
And when you went to Hewlett-Packard, I mean, you went as inside sales person, but then...
Well, yeah, and so I worked there for a little while, and then, it's territory-based. I worked for the federal, or my customers were the Navy, and whatnot. And then, I was fortunate enough to given the opportunity to be a manager for the inside sales team, which I really enjoyed that. I didn't know that was the path that I wanted to go on and the path that I wanted to do, but I did enjoy being in management. And, I had a lot of people, I was not the best manager because I had so much to learn and it was brand new, but I had a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, just based off of the relationship, they felt strong in my leadership skills. So yeah, I did enjoy doing that a lot, and it was rewarding when teams hit their numbers and things like that. So,
but there were things that you did from your customer service that you brought into your leadership. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I think it's just trying to always listen to the other side, just trying not to just be so stuck on like who's right and who's wrong and things like that, and always just trying to I don't know, it can be a weakness, but it can also be seen as a strength, but the peacekeeper, and just negotiator, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So okay, all right, well, okay, so now we're going to switch into, now you're a mom, so you left Hewlett Packard. And I had Bear and Toby.
Yes,
you didn't leave right away.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So, do you want to talk about a little? Why don't you share? Because you were on maternity leave, and they had very good benefits.
Yeah.
You were on maternity leave for about 7 or 8 months with your first baby. Right? And then, whoops.
No, not whoops.
Not whoops, but
we wanted to have our kids back to back, and so Bear and Toby are 14 months apart, and so we wanted them back to back because Allie at the time was 10 when Bear was born.
She's your stepdaughter.
Yeah, she's my stepdaughter, and Zach's older than I am, so, and I also too just wanted I just wanted my kids I wanted that not chapter to be over, but I like being pregnant, but there's some women that are all about being pregnant and some that are just like, hey, I'm ready for my kids to be here.
And so do you feel that, because you had your kids so close together, that was what you wanted to do personally, but from employment, did it change at your work? I mean, because you were a manager and you had been on maternity leave, so what happened when you came back the first time, and then was it a hard transition?
It was, and it was a hard transition because I was gone for so long. So luckily, the company I was working for, they give 8 months, depending on the delivery, 7 or 8 months of maternity leave. And so it was so nice to have that time, because I think a lot of people ask me, well, were you sad to go back? And I was like, no, I was actually really ready. It was a significant amount of time with my kid. And also, too, I was working from home because of COVID and all this stuff, and only having to go into the office Monday and Tuesdays, and so it was a good balance. But then, on the other hand, it is hard to be away from a sales company for that long, and a lot of changes happened, and that company can't stand still for one person, and that's totally fair. And so when I came back, there was a lot of changes in regards to the team I had and the members, and people had gone and left and things like that. And so that was the hardest part for me to come back, and it didn't feel like that same energy that I had before I left. Before I left, I was very excited to be a manager, and then I think when I came back and there was so much change, and I'm not saying that I can't deal with change, but it was just it was so much change that it didn't even feel familiar.
Right, and you weren't part of the change. You just had to accept it.
And I think that was kind of the start of just when I was feeling this shift of is this what I want to do?
Well, and that's why we're going to jump into about being a mom. So how has being a mom changed your perspective on work and life balance?
I think there's been, and I don't know 100% if this is being a mom, but one realization that I came very quick to realize was, at the end of the day, you are just a rec number in a corporate company. And I think I saw this post on social media, it's a long time ago, that this woman had passed away. She had built this 401k, saved up all of her PTO days, all this stuff. She had, desk was all built up. And so then she passed away all of a sudden, and those days just go away. That 401k, yes, it rolls over to whoever. But then the rec number was literally released 2 days later. And so it's just that realization of how quickly you can be replaced in a corporate position. And is it worth it? I mean, obviously, yes, I'm not disregarding, like, your job at the end of the day, but, like, for me, it was, do I want to, because there was a point where, even though I was home with him from, like, he would go to daycare from 8:30 to 2:30, but my workday wasn't done until 5, and so I'd be extremely stressed trying to go pick him up from daycare, having to take meetings as a manager, and I was like, is this stress worth it? And at the time I was pregnant with Toby, and stress for baby is not good, stress for mama is not good, and so I think that's just kind of the shift of, like, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's one thing you've learned about yourself since you've become a mom?
No, it's a tricky one. I think that I'm just even more understanding than when I was previously. Like, I think I'm a very understanding person. Again, I like to see both sides, and now I have this whole other side I get to see. And so I think it's just more understanding for others and situations, and like to see both sides. You never know what someone's going through at the end of the day, and like, yeah, I think just understanding people in general.
Okay, so being more understanding and everything about people and their situations. So, well, now I want to transition to about your childhood, about you growing up. So can you tell us about what's a lesson that you learned from me that you've taken into adulthood?
I think that maybe this isn't a lesson, but we mentioned it like maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago, but one thing that I feel like was engraved to me was the plan of action. So it was, you graduate high school, you go to college, you graduate college, you get a job, you find the person, you get married, whatever. But in a way, it's like, and I did all of those things, and I don't think not because, like, I don't know, maybe you didn't brainwash me, but, I'm not nicking on that. But there did come a point where I was like, well, okay, I did all the things, what next? You know what I mean? And so I think that I did have that moment a couple of years ago, especially when, we were talking about the shift in the moment of, like, well, maybe I don't want to be in corporate position anymore. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't really for me. I'm not loving the, what I was talking about earlier was, it was really hard with Bear when he was younger, and I didn't want to pay for a full price daycare, and so it was hard to do the 8:30 to 2:30 and then still work from 2:30 to 5 with a 6-month-old. I was like, I couldn't even imagine bringing another kid into this equation right now, and so I think that's, even though I was pregnant, I think that it was good for me to have that lesson and that kind of track, because it really did give me a purpose. But then it was almost like when that moment came of, like, maybe I don't want the job anymore, I felt a little lost for a little while of, like, well, what is my next step? And luckily it wasn't in limbo for a while. I mean, we came up with Ignite the Wealth and then Money Making Mamas, and obviously that's doing really well. But I do think there was a moment, like 95% I really benefited from that, but then like 5% I was like, wait, now what?
Now what happens?
Yeah.
I was just like, you have to figure it out. So, well, what's one of your favorite childhood memories of you and I?
I mean, I think there's a handful, but like right off the bat is when maybe this was like, kind of elementary school, but I always loved when we'd go get McDonald's and I'd get my chicken nuggets, my Happy Meal, chicken nuggets, fries, and my orange soda, and we'd have like a movie, like little day, or if we went to the pond, like the park, and went and fed the ducks. I think holidays were always fun because we'd always bake, and I mean, we still do today, but movies weirdly are like kind of like, that's a big one, because I remember the time that we went to we'd have our theater dates, and the time I wanted to be a big girl and go get the popcorn and the popcorn and the drinks all by myself, and so I went, and then we were like 4 rows up, and so I had to carry the tray of popcorn with the drinks. I just completely tripped and was mortified, spilled the popcorn, spilled the drink, just ran right back to mama. And it's like, okay, help. But I think always just doing those little like one-on-one dates was really fun.
So now as a mom, what kind of memories are you making with your children that were reflective of your childhood?
The movies that I grew up with, like I like introducing them to that. Like Tarzan was one that I always watched as a kid, and so Bear like loved that one. I think a goal of mine is, I mean, we went to Disney 1 or 2 times, and even though I don't remember the details of the trip, like I feel like that is just such, like that's a dream of mine to have with my kids as well, because I'm sure in the moment it felt so magical for you, and for me, you know, Bear and Toby like love Winnie the Pooh and Tigger right now, and so it would be just so cool. So I'm trying to convince Zach a 2025 trip to Disney.
2025 Disney. So, well, was there ever a moment, okay, so kind of a kudo to your mom maybe, when you realized, wow, my mom is really cool?
I mean, there's been moments. I think just growing up, and maybe this is a testament to both of us, but yes, we had like our normal mother-daughter spats, like everything like that, but when I reflect on my time in like middle school and high school, there wasn't like a lot of moments where there was big fights. And again, like maybe testament to both of us in the sense of like I felt like I wasn't chained to the house, and I wasn't, you know, I couldn't do anything. Like you'd let me go to the movies with friends, or you'd let me spend the night with friends, but then also too there was a trust factor of like, you know, I feel like I hadn't done anything to break your trust necessarily, you know. I feel like I was a relatively good kid.
You were.
So yeah, I just think that like it was nice, not like it was having time with my friends, being able to do that stuff, being able to like play sports, go do, and I feel like for the most part there was never really moments that you were, not that you didn't say no to me, but if I wanted to try something, you'd always be supportive of that.
So I think, you know, your kids are young now, so we might have to ask this question, you know, 5 years from now, but how do you approach parenting now compared to how you were raised? Are you doing some similar things, different things?
I think the biggest thing that I can think of, and I don't want to get reprimanded for this later, Zach and I both noticed that growing up, and I think, again, like this is just, you're probably a different side of it, but I remember Brian would always say, like, you got to finish your food because the kids in Africa are going to starve, or whatever it is, you know, and that stemmed probably from his childhood, or, you know, just passed on. And so I think one thing that, like, we've tried really being, like, is how our bodies feel, and, like, you know, are you, even though the kids have maybe 5 bites left, maybe they're done with dinner because they ate enough, like, and trying to recognize of just the language we have around food.
Yes, I agree. I think, and I can just speak to, like, you know, being older, and, you know, our parents, because that was a thing, you know, like in the 50s, 60s, you know, like if they worked hard to put food on the table, and then food is seen as, like, I don't know, like a family thing, or what, an acceptance thing, or whatever. So I think it's good, because I think you can avoid a lot of eating disorders.
Yeah.
If you
like you don't, like, I think for a long time, you know, like we would, like I would finish my food because like all my food has to be gone from the table instead of feeling what my body,
right,
you know, knows. So I think that's a big one that we try to do right now.
Yeah. Well, tell us a funny story about, you know, what the kids have done recently that you...
I don't know if it's a funny story, but like they're just wild. Like sometimes I, like, majority of the time I can handle the energy, but then like sometimes those kids, like, it's so bare. Okay, so it was kind of funny because we went to the zoo yesterday. We took all 3 kids because Allie's on winter break, and so Bear, again, you know, we're trying not to, like, because with the holidays there's cookies and candy and sweets and whatnot, and so we're trying not to be like, here's all of the sweets, but also trying not to, like, put this, oh, you can only have it, whatever. And so anyways, Bear has definitely learned what candy is and what it's not. And so yesterday he wanted a snack, and he was kind of having a moment of like he was tired and he needed a pick me up. Like we always need a pick me up, right? And so I had packed 2 Reese's for lunch that I had put away for them to kind of finish, like eat majority of their food, and then I would give it to them, but I forgot because we were just moving along. So when he was having this moment, I was like, well, do you want your candy? And he goes, yeah. Oh, and so I'm like, okay, give me a second. So I'm going through the backpack, and all of a sudden I can't find it. I'm like, oh, I don't know where I put it. And so then I give him applesauce. You want applesauce? No. It's like, dang it.
Oh,
luckily
no.
I found the Reese's. We were all good. But it's just kind of funny because, and then
they know the difference.
They do. But so it's just funny, like just watching them like just be goofballs. And then also too, really quick, Tovi. So we had a little, like, she was a little delayed walker, not too much, but just a little bit. We had to go through this process with her, but she's walking now, all good. But it is funny because I think they're both recognizing now that, like, Toby can walk and run. And so just to watch that interaction of them playing on a different level, that's been really fun.
Yeah, it is. I've seen it myself, so I think it's pretty cool that they're doing it. So, what is some advice that you're going to pass on to these kids, these babies?
I think just try new things. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone, but also too, so one thing you asked me, what is a cool thing that you kind of let me do or whatever, but going and studying abroad was, I think, just such a transformation thing for me. And it's funny because I think a lot of people that say when I studied abroad, I know my husband, he likes to make fun of me, but it is such a like memorable and an amazing experience. And so if Bear and Toby ever came to me and they're like, hey, I want to study abroad, I'd be like, let's do it. Like, let's go for it. And, I still had to, again, you taught me the value of money. And so it wasn't like, you want to go study abroad? Okay, cool. No, we're like, okay, well, what can you put forward? What can we put forward? And we work together. Same with, college, things like that. And so,
and you should mention that you went by yourself. You didn't know anybody.
Yeah, so that was another thing too. So I had gotten the idea from my best friend. She went to Germany and she just had an amazing time. And I was like, well, I want to go do that. And I was at this point, I was 2 semesters away from graduating college. When you normally go to study abroad, like kind of early in your college experience. And so the credits, like I think I only had 1 credit that really transferred over because you had to, all these things. And I remember talking and, not that it would be a waste of an experience, but, 4 of my classes wouldn't transfer over. And we were kind of like, well, okay, is that okay versus, you know what I mean? And so I think obviously at the end of the day, we said the experience matters more than the credits. And so, just making sure I had some money saved up. And, again, luckily I did because when I got over there, I did the study abroad, realized only 1 class would transfer over, and I was like, okay, cool, like, let's do it. I knew no one from this program. Come to find out, a ton of people knew each other, so, like, I stepped in, didn't know anyone, didn't know my roommates. I mean, luckily they were all so nice. But it was so cool because I had been taught how to save money. Luckily I didn't have, it's not like you guys were like sending me money. I had money saved up. And I remember the first Sunday that I got to together with this group of girls who are like, I'm still good friends with to this day, sat down. And I didn't even realize once you get over to Europe. So I studied abroad in Prague. And once you get over there, it's so much easier to travel than the US. And so like, there'd be, like, flights to Greece for $17. Now, would it be a little sketchy? Yeah. Do you have to just take a backpack? Yes. But it was so cool because I did not realize that once I got over there that I could do that. And so the first Sunday that I sat down with this group of girls, they were like, okay, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? And we had planned out, like, almost every single weekend that we were going to go do something. And because, again, I had saved my money, that I was able to be like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's go to Iceland for a 10-day trip for our spring break. Like, let's do it. It was so much fun. And so
you traveled to how many countries while you were over there?
I traveled to 17 countries. I don't know the cities, but then, like, you guys got to come over. We got to do a huge family trip at the end of the year. Like, I met people, and it's just so cool. Like, and me and Zach got to go back later in life, and it was cool to show him around, like, Prague and my favorite spots there. And Yeah, so if the kids ever came to me and they're like, hey, I want to travel in the first place, like that is something that I want to, if there's one thing that I can teach them in life, it's getting out of your bubble, because there's so much to offer.
And you've decided to homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of been a journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've found? How, I know they're young, so
yeah.
You're starting with baby steps, but what do you want to give some tips on?
I don't know if I have tips, but I'll kind of go back to why we decided to do this, and it is because time, but also too, like, I mean, the kids would be in school from like 8 to 3 Monday through Friday, and that is just so tiring for kids. And so that was one reason that we were like, well, maybe we'll try the homeschool, and we'll try it to a certain age, and if they're we'll address every single year of is this benefiting them, whatnot. We're gonna put them in stuff, so they're, because I know a big stigma is socializing them, and like we're gonna make sure that they're in extracurricular activities. Both want them to play hockey and volleyball and things like that. But so I don't know if I have any tips yet, because it is so brand new. Mm-hmm. They are 3 and 2, but I think figuring out their routine is the biggest thing, and then realizing that they really only need ChatGPT is such a huge thing right now, and I've asked ChatGPT, hey, come up with a lesson plan, and it literally spits back, just learn through play right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's exciting. And then I am excited one day, like it will be nice of, hey, let's go visit Jesse in Vienna, and we don't have to worry about school. We can go and I can teach them from there. So I am very excited for that, because, and I also feel like a lot of moms that I talk to, they feel like that there's this time limit on their pre-K, because they have to go to, they'll go to kindergarten and whatnot, and I don't feel so stressed for that time.
Yes.
In this period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be a whole nother topic, education for your children. So, all right. Well, we're going to move into some more lighthearted kinds of stuff, Kelcie. So, okay, it says, are you going to like describe me as a mom? Whoops. One of our acoustics just fell down, so that's a little ghost that we have floating around. So if you're talking about moms, what do you think are the top 3 qualities that make a really great mom?
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard, I think just being present with your kids, loving them, and loving them doesn't mean you have to give them all these things. Like, I think just your time and presence can go beyond, any gift you could ever give them.
But there are moments when you get stressed, right? So how do you all moms face stress, right? So what do you do when you feel like you're just, oh my gosh, they're crying all day? And
luckily, I have a partner that I can be like, hey, I need a minute, and they're like, okay, yeah, cool, I understand that. But I recognize that there's not always that situation out there, and if you don't have that built, luckily I have you guys, and when Zach's traveling, I can be like, hey, can they please spend the night, because I just need a night, things like that. But just trying to go, even if it's and I think that being an entrepreneur and being a stay-at-home mom is hard, because at the end of the day, you just want to chill once those kids go to bed, and that's totally fair and reasonable, and you have to allow yourself to give that time, even though you might have I have to do X, Y, and Z for your business. So I think time management is such a big thing, because you have to give yourself that time, whether it's a cycle class at 5:15, whether it's watching your favorite show at 8 o'clock, or a night off from being a mom or entrepreneur or a working mom, whatever it is, just giving yourself that time and being selfish about it. I think that's,
even if you can just do an hour a week, to refresh. And okay, so what's the most mom thing that you catch me doing as a nana? I know we could have another chapter on this, so something's coming to my mind, but I'm going to see what you have to say.
Well, I almost want to see what you have to say first.
Well, I think you've changed from your first baby to your second baby, because the first baby used to say, don't pick him up so much, right? And now the second baby's like, you're not picking her up enough. So I think I have seen you grow as a mom, and become more balanced. And I think, when we're moms for the first time around, we all have that, I don't know, kind of, you're a little bit of a control freak too,
Yeah.
But as first time moms, I can remember just, I had to do everything. And I think, when you have the second baby, yes, you still have to do everything, but you're not as stressed. Do you feel that way, or how do you feel about that?
I think I feel it in a different way. I think I feel it in the sense of, because you're not able to give that, like, nothing compares to that first baby because you have all the time to give them. Whereas once you start having more kids, I almost feel stressed that I haven't spent enough time with Toby, or I haven't given her enough one-on-one time, or is, like when she was a little bit late walker, like I literally was like, oh my gosh, is it me? Like, is it because I didn't do enough tummy time, blah, blah, and you can have this so much guilt. Come to find out, it's just her personality. Like, she knew how to do it. She
just doesn't want to.
She realized
she wants to be held.
Yeah. So I think it's more about just stressing about that time that you might not be able to give that, compared to the first.
Okay.
But what was the original question?
It was just about, what do you see me doing as a nana? Like a mom thing as a nana.
I think my thing is when I'm around, I don't want you necessarily, like, I want you to be the fun nana. I don't want you.
The discipline, right?
Yeah, the discipline. Like, and also, too, like, you are a little dramatic sometimes.
Not me. No.
And so I feel like that's a little bit hard sometimes because I definitely understand the reactions, but just being able to, like, hold that in for a second, allowing me to step in and being like, hey, Bear, that wasn't okay. I think that sometimes.
And, I bet other mother-daughters face this, when you become, okay, so the mom now becomes the nana and seeing her daughter become the mom. And, I think that's probably a transition that a lot of women go through. So, well, if you could go back, so we're gonna like talk a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So you're a little older than you were even when you went to Prague. And I will say this about traveling abroad. Kelcie, we set that as a goal. And the person that we dropped off at the airport was not the person that we picked up because she just matured as a person. It was really cool transformation. But now I want to talk about some things like, okay, you're a little bit older, but today, what would you tell your younger self, your 12-year-old self, your 15-year-old self? What lessons have you learned?
I just feel like it's so, like, stereotypical, and, like, you hear this every day, but I just wish that I could have, like, lived in the moment a little bit more because it just passes by so fast. Like, I look at Allie, who's 13, going on, like, 17. She just got a haircut. She looks great, like, but she got, like, this a little bit more mature haircut. She got, like, styled bangs and all this stuff, and all the time I see it and I hear it of just how much she wants to grow up and things like that. And obviously I don't harp on her about it all the time, but I do give her a hard time sometimes because I'm like, you just enjoy this moment, like, enjoy being this, like, weird quirky teenager that doesn't have to worry about bills and things like that. And, like, also too, not completely aware of the world. Like, I feel like when you're a kid, you're just, like, in your own bubble with your friends. And so
that's
I think
not a bad thing. I think sometimes with the things that go on in the world, do you think that's okay?
Well, you mean being aware of it?
Yeah, not being aware of it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wish that I could tell that kid, like, not to want to drive so soon, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, or just hang out with my friends, just a little bit more.
Because I think when you're younger, you want to, like, hurry up and grow up. Yeah. But when you're older,
but then you're like, no. So, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I'm looking at all these questions. I just don't know which one I want to. Oh, okay. What do you think is one habit or quirk of mine that you now have? Or maybe none. Maybe all my bad habits and quirkiness.
I appreciate that I'm so organized. And I've got, the project manager, I have my manager skills in me. But sometimes I wish, I'm like, why can't I just let go a little? Loosen the reins. So I think the controlness, which I think is I think that we've brought it up every single episode.
That's because we're control freaks.
So I think that's the one thing but then also too, again, I appreciate I don't know, I think that you've just taught me so much, you know what I mean? And there's
okay. You can say it. I'm a good role model.
You're a great role model. Uh-huh.
You were a good student.
This was bribed for Saturday babysitting.
So I do want to find out from you, because you haven't really shared, but what's some goals that you have that you haven't pursued yet?
I think just feeling more secure as an adult. And I feel like maybe my fellow millennials will understand what I'm talking about. But, you know, there's like, we just did our will, like when we had the kids. And I had never thought about doing that before. But, and that's a, you know, you talk about, last episode we talked about being aware of like the end of your life. And even I was just talking with a friend this morning about, you know, people who have cancer, and like, you know, how that is a realization that it could go one way or another way. And so I think that once we got our will, you know, we're like, who's going to, like, our kids are taken care of, like, that felt good. And so, you know, doing small things like setting up a 529 for them, or like, you know.
Wait, tell everybody what's a 529.
It's the where you save money for your college as kids, pretty much, or kids' college, pretty much. So doing stuff like that, and it's so minimal, but I feel like it just makes me feel a little bit more secure, and makes my.
Make a plug for real estate investing with a 529?
Sure, go right ahead.
So you can. We talked about creative financing, but you can invest with your kids' 529 and grow that, because there's limits.
Yep.
Right, that you can. So that's all about another episode, but yeah, self-directed. IRAs, including I think they call it a Cloverdale 529 savings account.
No. So yeah, so I think doing more stuff like that sounds so mundane and so boring, but there's also some things too, like you know, goals for myself personally. I want to do more like little projects here and there, just crafty projects and things like that. And then you mentioned health last time, and working more on just my health and being more aware of that.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, we know because the kids.
Oh my gosh. So it's funny you ask this, because so me and Zach just talked about this.
Yeah, and talk about how old the kids are going to be then.
So in 5 years, we'll be going into, I guess we just talked about 4 years. Okay, so I'm going to change it. We're going to say 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. Okay.
They will be almost 6 and 5, if my math is right. No.
7.
Oh gosh. So Zach and I went to Germany and Paris and London. I think like maybe a year and a half after we met, but we left like Christmas night, I think, and we got on Christmas Day, and we spent New Year's in Paris. And Paris was never somewhere that I was like, so I never visited when I was over there, because I thought it was just kind of like, you know, another New York or something like that, and thought it would be like, but I loved it. I thought it was great. I think a lot of other people have other things to say about it, but I just really enjoyed it. But it was so cool because we spent New Year's there, and we just went to, this was when they were having riots, and like it was kind of sketch. But we just spent the night in our hotel room, but it was really cool to be in this other country. Like, I mean, I had been in another state before for New Year's, but being in a new country. So we set a goal for ourselves that the next time going into 2029, so we went going in 2018 to 2019. So I guess, I don't know if this is, so yeah, 4 years from now, going into 2029, we want to be like, not in Paris, but a big trip for ourselves.
Okay. All right. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Okay. So anything else you want to share with the audience about, you know, your journey as a mom? I mean, you kind of just, you did have the plan. Is motherhood everything? What was the big expectations about motherhood that no one knew, no one told you about, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this?
How emotional it would be. I feel like like obviously as I get older, and like, you know, I had my kids back to back, like hormone changes have been a huge thing, but also too just like how much more emotionally aware you are of everything, like watching a movie and it has something, you know, maybe something prior to kids didn't affect you the way it does after kids, or there's certain things I just cannot watch now, like, you know, I can't even fathom a kid going through this, whatever it is. And so I think just Like, and then emotional, too. Like, I'm so excited for Bear. Okay, so he's about to be 3 in literally, like, a month. And I'm so excited for him to be, you know, a bigger kid. It's healthy. He's a growing boy. Like, all this stuff. He's about to get into hockey because he's 3. All this stuff. I'm so, like, I could start crying right now because I'm like, wait.
Your oldest baby's growing up.
My oldest baby is growing up. So I just didn't realize how emotional it would be. And it is a little taxing sometimes. I'm like, can I not get emotional about this?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. So, well, Kelcie, we're ready for your quick fire session. Are you ready?
Yeah,
all right, here we go. I don't know how quick it'll be because I'm squinting as I'm reading this. So, all right. Favorite family tradition growing up?
I think just baking cookies or holiday treats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. A food you'll never eat again because of your childhood?
You know, canned beans is one of those. You shake and bake pork chops.
Hamburger helper.
No, I don't mind well, I make my own healthy hamburger helper now, but like shake and bake pork chops or pork chops in general, I can only really have them like every once in a while.
Or fish sticks and macaroni and cheese.
I can get away with fish sticks and macaroni and cheese, but
for those of you who don't know, that was some of the common things that we had on Thursday night.
Shake and bake pork chops is one of those that I just cannot eat.
I still like shake and bake, so maybe you need to do shake and bake chicken.
I can go without the shake and bake.
Okay, a moment as a kid that still makes you laugh.
I think just being goofy with Jesse. There's just so many moments of like us walking to Blockbuster or like, I don't know, walking to somewhere, wherever we were walking to, because we walked a ton.
And you rode your bikes.
Rode our bikes. Like, I think just being...
Tell everybody who Jessie is.
And Jessie is my, shout out to her. We met in kindergarten, like 1999. So, however... 25 plus years. 25 plus years. In fact, I think we just celebrated our 25 years of friendship. Anyway, so she lives in Vienna now. We're still very, very close. She comes and visits when she flies in, and then I helped move her to Vienna. But, we met in Arizona. I lived in Arizona, and I was so sad to move away from her. But we still remained really, really close all throughout living in Texas, and we've been more long-distance best friends than best friends in real life. Or, I mean, in person.
For the long time.
So, yeah, I think just sleepovers and being goofy with her.
All right. So, who gives the better hugs? Me or Pops?
Well, you. Shout out to Pops, but you're my mom at the end of the day.
But then, at your house, who gives the better hugs? You or Zach?
I don't know. It's so tough. Like, obviously, from your partner, they mean a lot. But when I come home and he's like, mama, 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 and just, like, wants to give me a hug, because, again, he's almost 3, and so he's very independent and will vocalize. Like, this morning I went to go get him up from bed, and, like, you know, normally we'll hang out and chill in there for, like, 5 to 10 minutes and just be goofy. This morning he was like, go, mama. I was like... So, you know, the hugs from Zach are really nice, but the hugs from Bear when they're wanted are really nice.
So he knew you were leaving, though. He's like, he was
telling me to go.
Go, mama. Well, because he's excited for you to come home. Or maybe he knew Pops was coming over.
No, we were in bed and he just was telling me to go. Like, get out.
Get out. Go, mama. That's funny.
And I was like, are you going to go with me? And he wouldn't answer me, so I couldn't really tell what he wanted.
Well, Kelcie, it was great to get to know you today. I learned some things, too. Is there anything that you want to share or that I didn't ask you that you think people would benefit from?
I don't know. I think that I can't really think of anything right now, but I think that if anyone ever wanted to like talk more, maybe learn about kind of how I took a jump into real estate investing. I know we didn't want to talk about that too much, just because I don't have the background you do. I'm happy to talk about that.
They should call you.
They'd call me. Maybe just text me first. That's a generational thing. But yeah, so I think just if you ever have any questions or want to talk more or whatever it is.
How to balance
I'm a pretty open person. I like making new friends. Yeah.
I know a lot of new moms, especially if they're stay-at-home moms, they might not have the network or the community, so you could always hook them up too.
That's another thing. Yeah, I feel like yeah, maybe this is one thing, but I really struggled for a good like year and a half. Like it wasn't until probably like this last 6 months that I really started putting myself out there and meeting new mom friends. And like my goal was to always have, because Bear and Toby are not in daycare, was for them to have friends, but then also to me too, because like I'm definitely more than happy to like hang out with my moms and let the kids destroy the living rooms. Like I don't mind that at all. But I struggled a lot with like my friends because, you know, I'm still friends with some of the people that don't have kids that I was friends with prior to getting married and all that. But, you know, like you said before, not having that group that doesn't have friends, or I'm sorry, kids and whatnot is hard. And so I think I struggled with that for a while, and it wasn't kind of until I started putting myself out there and finding my groups of people. So if you're struggling with that, I'm more than happy to, you know, talk and just
call her. We'll have
text me.
Text her. Oh, text her. Our phone number works both for texting. We'll have it in the description.
Yep.
So. Well, I want to thank you for being so open today and sharing your story and your journey. And I'm going to ask everybody to like follow us, right? And what are some other social media things they need to do?
Yeah, so follow, subscribe, reach out to us if you have anything that you want to talk about or hear about. I think next week we'll talk about more about money making mamas, and just it will be probably a real estate investing heavy episode. We won't do that too often just because we want to keep this towards moms and entrepreneurs, but it'll tell more about our business and ask maybe a lot of questions, or answer a lot of questions that maybe people have about real estate investing. So if you do have any questions about that, please send them to us. Right? Drop them in the comments below. Any way you want to reach out to us, feel free to. And
they can always go to our website. We have a lot of info. That would be Money Makin, Makin, Mamas.
MAMAS, because I think a lot of people spell MOMMAS, but we are MAMAS. Yes. But anyways, follow us on all socials. Leave a review. Let us know if you like the podcast and whatnot. But thank you,
Mom.
Mom.
We could talk about, right? All right. So thanks again, Kelcie. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Love you. Talk later.
Bye-bye.